Meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Information Technology and General Services Committee for the date of September 26, 2017. Mr. Clerk, do we have any speaker cards for general public comment?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close general public comment. I'd like to take items 3 through 9 on consent, if there's any objection.
I do have a question on number 4.
Number 4? Okay, so if we can take number 4, hold number 4, we'll do 3 and then 5 through 9 on consent.
Councilmember, item 4 has 2 CA reports. Just to confirm, you're approving both reports indicated on the agenda?
I'm sorry.
Item 4 has 2 reports from the CAO.
Okay.
Confirm you're approving both.
We're holding it. We're holding 4.
Thank you. Very good.
Yeah, the balance will actually take on consent if there's no objection. Okay, that'll be the order. So that would be items 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. And seeing, okay, so we'll go ahead and wait. Okay, why don't we go ahead and call item number 4.
Item 4, CAO fiscal year 2017-18 first construction project report and addendum relative to the transfer of $1.3 million in MICLA funding from the City Hall East Cooling System Replacement Project to the Department of General Services for the Information Technology Agency's server farm project at the P4 level of City Hall East, and the transfer appropriation expenditure of $2.6 million for various capital improvement projects, recreational facility, general obligation bond funded, and GSG projects. The use of the total $32 million in MICLA financing, including for projects in the Municipal Facilities Capital Improvement Expenditure Program, and other MICLA project allocation modifications.
Anastasia Tarpe Ellis, CAO. Before you is the first 2017-18 construction project support. This report recommends $2.6 million in transfers and appropriations, and also before you is an addendum to this report. And the addendum recommends a transfer of $1.3 million to GSD for work on the ITA server farm expansion. There are no known impacts to the general fund in connection with authorized projects covered in this report. Any potential increases in operations and maintenance costs associated with any of the projects will be addressed through the city budget process as projects are completed. We have various representatives in attendance today to address specific questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just had a question. I get confused on MICLA. It comes up in budget a lot about what can and can't be spent with MICLA funds, and whether it's vehicles because they're not considered long-term investments. But I'm always told that services are clearly off the table because those are ongoing expenses. And then I look at this list and I see a couple of things, but the one that jumped out the most was number J, which is specifically an appropriate. It's not a lot of money. It's really, I'm just trying to make sure I understand how MICLA works and that we're doing it the right way. I'm sure there's a good reason, but I wanted to understand it better. So it's for security services, and in the thing it actually says services, and it's appropriation for funds recommended for security services provided at the former jail. And so how does that square with our MICLA program? How are we able to use, in this case, MICLA funding for services?
So to clarify for item J in this report, it's for CIEP General Fund, and that item is not funded by MICLA.
Okay, so it's not that.
Not that specific item. No.
So and where does it show which ones are MICLA? I guess it says it on the. Okay.
So on page 3 of the report is a chart just for reauthorizing approved MICLA financing.
Oh, on the addendum.
On the addendum?
That's the 1.3.
Okay.
And then throughout the report, each item has the funding source listed below the project title. So that should clarify if it's MICLA or CAEP, which is general fund.
Okay. Great. Then that's no problem. Thank you for clarifying.
Great, thank you. So any additional questions?
Nope.
Okay, seeing none, then we'll go ahead and adopt that. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and item number 2.
Item 2 is a sale report relative to feasibility of purchasing real property located at 5,400 Crenshaw Boulevard for use as a surface parking lot.
Good afternoon, committee members. Clay McCarter with the CLA's office. So briefly, the CLA's office recommends that staff take the necessary actions to purchase 5,400 Crenshaw Boulevard for the price of $1.8 million to be used as a city parking lot. The source of funds to be used are approximately $2.1 million in recovery zone economic development bonds. This total will be used to acquire the site and also develop it into a city parking lot. The seller is West Angeles City Place LLC, which is an entity comprised of CIM 5400 Crenshaw LP and West Angeles Community Development Corporation. West Angeles Community Development Corporation was in escrow to purchase the site. However, it is recommended that the city replace West Angeles as the buyer. As part of the transaction, the city will enter into an exclusive negotiating agreement with West Angeles and Integral Development, which will for a limited time govern the potential future development of the site into a mixed-use property. Due to construction of the Crenshaw LAX rail line, approximately 300 parking spaces in and around the Crenshaw commercial corridor will be permanently lost, and this new city lot will provide 60 to 70 new parking spaces to help remediate that. The DOT commissioned a study of the potential parking locations in the area, and the site was highly recommended as a parking lot. The site is currently used as a temporary gravel lot, and BOE has reviewed environmental reports and finds the site to be without significant containment levels. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Yep.
Oh, but I'm happy to go. So, all right. Does Metro have an obligation to replace any of the parking that's permanently lost?
Metro, the Walshay construction company who is building the line has a contract with Metro, and that they were required to provide temporary parking to help with the businesses that were affected by the parking loss. In regards to specific, if Metro had the obligation, I don't have that information. If DOT does.
And obviously, the obvious follow-up and related to that is if there's a way to get them to fund a portion of the cost to acquire it.
So Ken Husting, LADOT. My understanding, working closely with Metro, Walshay, and the community over there, is when Walshay came on board to bid on the project, they offered to provide additional parking. So it was not a requirement, environmental mitigation requirement. It was something that Walshay had volunteered to do. And so that's what they're doing with this lot. And because we're looking to have LADOT take over the lot, we'll continue to provide that parking, assuming that we go forward with this project. So there's no financial commitment from Metro,
Or obligation.
or no obligation.
My question, and it was related to the appraisal versus the purchase price,
Okay.
and what the explanation is for acquiring it.
Yeah, so while the city's appraisal was 1.565, I believe, and the purchase price $1.8 million, even though there's a discrepancy there, the staff feels that the public benefit served of replacing this parking in that area is worth the extra price, the $1.8 million.
No, I understand the value of having the lot. I was just curious, but why are we still paying more than what it's been appraised at?
That was a negotiated price between the city and the seller.
Okay. I'm sorry. So I see my colleague here, and I apologize. Did you want to have an opportunity to speak on this item? Councilmember Harris-Doss?
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Rodriguez and Member Blumenfeld. This lot, as staff has described, is right on the Crenshaw corridor. It fronts Crenshaw Boulevard at a critical area where there are a number of storefront businesses that relied on street parking. The thing to know about Crenshaw that gets left out here is it has a service road, so it isn't just parking on curb, it's parking on two curbs on either side of the street. All of those, the service road is being completely removed, and most of a good chunk of the area is being turned red. So those parking spaces go away forever. We beat the bushes, and we continue to work with Metro to get them to shoulder as much of this as possible, especially because running the train at grade was so controversial on this part of Crenshaw, and Metro saved almost $1 billion by running it at grade instead of below ground, and so we believe some of the dividend ought to come back to the community in the form of these kind of benefits. So we continue to struggle for this. On this particular case, I think it's two things. One, it's very likely that the lot will be lost. In other words, other buyers are there, which is why the seller, who's CIM, by the way, remember that, you hear their name a lot, they're demanding the higher price, partly because that lot will go to another use, and we won't have a way to do parking there. So, I really applaud staff for finding a source of resources that was about to expire anyway and hadn't been spoken for, and as well as finding a lot that we could actually negotiate a sale on.
Great. Any additional questions?
Yeah, to transfer it from West Angeles to the city, is it required that we do an exclusive negotiating agreement, or are there circumstances where we could have done it, an agreement with a different entity, or figured out another bank shot?
That was a deal point in the transfer from West Angeles to the city, with that there be an E&A negotiated.
Okay, and we had to do that because the fear is, as you're saying, that
Maybe
they're
we might lose it to
going to
another
go
potential
above market
buyer.
value. So the market value is not really a reflection of what the market value is.
It could change, yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, one more question that I have, and I'm just looking at, in terms of the option apparently to also transfer this property for a different potential use or sale, correct?
Yes,
That's included in
the E&A would have, West Angeles would have the right, but not the obligation, to purchase or lease the property.
Okay.
And that would be a 2-year term with a 1-year option to renew.
Okay. And so my concern is just to make sure that the city is made whole if in the event that is exercised, is one of my concerns, in making sure that that's something that we are protected in on this particular parcel. So I'd like to make a recommendation to approve this, but I'd also like to make an amendment that in the purchase that the purchase price is recovered in the event that the property is sold, so that we could assure that we're made whole. Is that?
If that's the committee's wish.
Okay. Okay.
And that would have to be negotiated into the deal, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
But you don't anticipate a problem with doing that?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
Makes sense to do it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And so we had 2, 4, and then we have item number 1.
Item 1, we have 2 sale reports relative to the sale of city-owned surplus property located at 1611 South Beloit Avenue, an LADOT off-street parking lot 654 to Quattro SM and Beloit Partners LLC for $1,848,000 and related actions.
Hi.
Good afternoon. My name is Alejandro Martinez with the CAO's office. The CAO recommends approval of the GST report requesting authority for the direct sale of city-owned surplus property located at 1611 South Beloit Avenue in CD 11 to Quattro SM Beloit Partners LLC for $1,848,000. The property, approximately 6,000 square feet, and an LADOT municipal off-street parking lot number 654 is a small, out-of-the-way, and underutilized in its current capacity as a municipal parking lot. At its July 27th and August 31st, 2017 MFC meeting, the Municipal Facilities Committee approved the recommendations and instructed staff to transmit to council for consideration. We are here on standby if you have any questions.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Usually the procedure, as I understand it, whenever you sell surplus property, is that 50% goes to the general fund and 50% is deposited into the council district's real property trust fund. Why is that not happening here in terms of the money going to the general fund?
The council motion that was drafted gave very specific instructions. The CLA's office is here, and a representative from the council office and GST, if They are here.
Ken Husting, LADOT Parking Management. Typically, when you have an LADOT asset that is supported by the Special Parking Revenue Funds, that asset, when it's sold, goes back to the Special Parking Revenue Funds, and that's per the ordinance.
So it's not the case that, unlike other surplus, like we're selling some surplus land in my district, and half of it goes to the general fund.
That's not the case when it comes to Special Parking Revenue Fund.
Okay, so that's never been the policy of the city.
No. Not that I'm aware of, but I can only speak for.
I'm sorry, Jackie Wagner, CAO Asset Management Group. It is a policy of the city to, where applicable, deposit 50% of the sale proceeds to the Real Property Trust Fund for the council office, as well as 50% to the general fund, where and as long as that property was not encumbered or purchased by other special funds. In this instance, this property is encumbered by the special parking revenue funds, and any proceeds from the sales has to be returned to that particular fund. And so that is what is recommended in the recommendations, is that the entire $1.848 million be deposited in the special parking revenue fund. And it is specifically because the property was funded by that.
So I thought the property was going to all these different things.
Yeah, I thought it was a sale, I thought we were talking about the
There's-
disposition of this property, and the proceeds would be distributed among,
So the proceeds are going to be deposited to the special parking revenue fund, and at such time that the proceeds are declared as surplus, then there are subsequent recommendations to distribute the monies. But as far as the MFC report, we're only recommending the direct sale and the deposit of the funds to the special parking revenue fund.
so yes, never, my apologies.
No problem.
So we were also in a receipt of a letter from Councilmember Bonin's office indicating how they would like the distribution of the proceeds from this disposition of this property to be utilized. And so I'd actually like to invite, is there someone from,
Yes, I'll defer to DOT and
thank you.
counterparts.
Thank you. We jumped ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
Good afternoon, council members. Ezra Gale for Councilman Mike Bonin. So the letter that you're in receipt of lays out a path to encumber the funds when and if they are declared surplus after being placed into the Special Parking Revenue Fund. We identified these sources by working with LADOT on some projects that they are very excited about and that they hope to roll out first initially as pilot programs and then citywide, as well as placing significant dollars in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, specifically noting that those dollars are not encumbered in any way within the confines of Council District 11. There's a desire to ensure that the proceeds of these sales are spread citywide, and these were the sources that made sense with LADOT, as well as help support our need for affordable housing in the city.
Sure, you're welcome to ask any questions.
So if we didn't do this, where would the money go?
My understanding is that dollars would go into the Special Parking Revenue Fund.
And that parking revenue fund, is that geographically limited?
No, the Special Parking Revenue Fund, unless there's a condition approved by council, would go back into the general parking revenue fund to be used across the city for parking meters, parking facilities, any number of parking assets or parking staff related to the Special Parking Revenue Fund.
But just to be clear, that in addition to that, the way the funds are discussed as being redistributed is still to the Housing Trust Fund, correct?
Right.
As well as, and this is for this is beyond the dollars that would go to the
Streets
Review
Pilot Project.
right.
Correct. So the dollars are targeted for three sources. One is the street sweeping notification pilot program,
Right.
which LADOT
Citywide then.
can speak to. The second is for implementing, hiring a consultant to craft a citation rate and policy study to ensure the right sizing of our parking citation fines. And the third is for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Okay. Do you have any additional
I mean,
questions?
it's
or-
more of a I like all the things it's being spent on. So, I mean, in terms of policy priorities, it makes sense to me. I'm a little uncomfortable with what feels like we're circumventing our normal budgeting process, that we're expending these funds outside of that process. It's not going through the budget committee. That doesn't quite feel right to me. Why? Tell me why I shouldn't be uncomfortable with that.
Our understanding is that there was a request by CD2 to have this item referred to the Budget and Finance Committee as well.
And also refer to Budget and Finance.
Okay, well, then that makes more sense.
We're just the first stop.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
Okay. So then I'd like to make a recommendation that we go ahead and receive the report, the MFC report dated August 2nd, 2017, and approve the MFC recommendations in the report dated August 29th, as amended by the communication from Councilmember Mike Bonin, dated September 21st, 2017, to include the additional recommendations related to the proceeds from the sale and request that this item be referred to Budget and Finance Committee for their consideration.
Great.
Okay?
Madam Chair, and just to clarify, you also wanted a request to have it referred to Budget and Finance.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Uh-huh. Okay,
Great.
any objections?
No objection. That's
Okay.
great.
So ordered, thank you. And I think that's, yes.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so we have concluded the meeting. Thank you very much.
All right. Good job, Madam Chair. You run an efficient meeting.
Just trying to